and it's Dak Prescott. His future is price tag looking pretty expensive. Dak heading into the final year of his current deal with the Cowboys, with everything indicating he'll play out the final season. And when he finally hits free agency, he's expected to receive a huge payday. Some even think almost as many as $60 million a year, be the highest paid quarterback in the league. However, our Chris Canty is like, pump the brakes on that.
Once upon a time, there was some thought that there would be a team out there that would give up 2 first-round draft picks and pay Lamar Jackson what he was looking for just because we're talking about an MVP quarterback that was 25 years old. That didn't happen. And so the demand that we thought would be there for a quarterback of that ilk turned out it wasn't there. Now, I'm not saying that it's because of the owners colluding. I'm also not taking that possibility off the board. I know this is reckless speculation, but we perceive there to be a huge demand for Dak Prescott, knowing that he's going to go into free agency unencumbered. I would just caution folks when it comes to what the market could potentially be for Dak.
So that's Chris Canty's take. Mina, she's back with us. Are we overestimating the market for Dak Prescott?
No, we're not. When he signs a contract, I expect it, frankly, to start with the number 6. I guess we'll start with the Lamar Jackson point. Lamar wasn't an unrestricted free agent, and I think that heavily impacted his market out there. Teams knowing that the Ravens had the ability to match that contract and the draft capital that was involved, it was a different scenario from what we would be seeing with Dak Prescott, which is much more analogous to Kirk Cousins, who's really the only comparable quarterback who actually hit free agency. And Kirk Cousins, worse quarterback than Dak Prescott, feel pretty comfortable saying that, 36 years old soon, coming off of a torn Achilles, going into a free agency, a draft, by the way, that was one of the best quarterback drafts we've seen in years. That proved to be the case. How many were taken the first round? And he still found a team that gave him $45 million a year. You don't think Dak Prescott, who is 31, is coming off a year he was an MVP candidate, top 3 in just about every metric, is going to top that significantly, especially given, by the way, that the draft next year at this point doesn't look close to what we're seeing this year, which basically means there will be more buyers for his services. If Dak tests free agency, he is going to get paid an ungodly amount of money. Whether or not you agree with that, that's a different conversation. I'm just telling you it's going to happen.
I think that's where I come in on this, which is that I don't know how many teams are necessarily going to agree with that. And I think it depends a lot on this season. You could look at Kirk Cousins and say he was overpaid. You could say that, sure, the market was one thing, but what you're getting from a production standpoint might not necessarily be worth it. I think that's where, look, Dak is obviously a better player than he is. Dak is obviously a really good player, but I don't know that starting with the number 6 for somebody that, again, is not living and dying on Rings Mountain is what every team is going to want to do.
I'm sorry, Rings Mountain?
Rings Mountain.
I love it.
Hardware Mountain is also adjacent to Rings Mountain. But what I'm saying is that, like, I would understand if a team looked at that and said, okay, yeah, you might deserve to get paid more than Kirk Cousins, but starting at 6 is a huge number, Harry. And I just don't know that every single team is going to look at that and be crawling to, go do it.
Well, it doesn't have to be every team. All it takes is one. And I can name you one right now. It's the Las Vegas Raiders. Because if they don't have a quarterback in place in that division where you have Justin Herbert and also Patrick Mahomes, you don't even have a chance. And the Denver Broncos have their young quarterback and hoping that he can be that guy. So all it takes is one team. It's no different from the draft. All 32 teams don't have to love you. Just that one has to love you and want your services. It's the same thing with Dak Prescott. I believe the number is going to start with the 6. Now, we don't know what the other number end with, but I do believe it's going to be a 6.
Yeah, I thought Mina laid it out perfectly because to use, and I love Christopher, but to use Lamar Jackson, not at all the same scenario. Teams understood that they had to do all the work on the contract, then to send it to the Ravens. The Ravens are like, okay, this is the market. We're going to take it from here. Now, Brian, you know what it's like. Not everybody can be a good host, right?
Yes.
Not everybody has a skill set.
No.
You know you're special,
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Keep going.
It's like quarterbacks. You need somebody to keep your cast of characters in line. You need to distribute the ball. You need to get it out and all that. Keep us moving down the field. Get those 10 yards into the end zone, right? Okay. The fact that you may not think Dak is a dog, that he deserves $60 million. The market is the market. As we've seen, the numbers for QBs keep going up, right? It really just takes, there are not enough quality quarterbacks around for us to think like, oh, Dak has no place. Nobody's going to want Dak.
Right.
They will overpay. Daniel Jones is literally making $40 million.
Well, that's also another team.
But
Yeah,
that's
the
what.
Giants.
But there, if you are a win now
Yes.
team, if you're a team that
Watch
has
that
talent,
space.
right, right.
that.
That's how you gonna deal with that, sir? If that ever happened.
Oh my gosh. First of all, you would have to hit me with a defibrillator. Number one. Number two, I love what you're going because I'm going to use you when I try to negotiate my new deal. Mina, my question to you is, how many teams do you think are we looking at that will give Dak Prescott
It
the
really
bag?
takes two, right, to get – yeah, it takes two to actually drive up the price. And I think there will be at least two. You mentioned the Raiders, who are the team that I think is the leading contender because obviously the uncertainty at quarterback there. You mentioned the Giants. That's another team I think you really need to keep an eye on in their own division. And then the Cowboys. I know that sounds crazy because we're talking about the Cowboys moving on from Dak, and why wouldn't you pay him now? The Cowboys would take a significant cap hit if Dak Prescott leaves the team. They are going to be bidders for, if he is good this year, they also will be bidders for his services. The fact that that Dak Prescott doesn't have a contract done with the Cowboys doesn't mean the Cowboys don't want to keep Dak Prescott. It means Dak Prescott knows he has so much leverage and there's no reason for him to get a deal done this year. So I would not throw Dallas out of the equation next year just because this thing gets drawn out.
I can't wait for that guy to get out of that circus that is Dallas and Jerry Jones. I'm serious. Like, his talent is one, and, you know, I feel like his star power personally has been a little truncated because of where he plays. I think in another that's a change of scenery situation that I would love to see, and that's separate from what happens this season. I like Dak as a player in the
Look at
future.
Brian.
That setup is.
Make me cry.
Yeah.
Derek, sign the man. I feel like mad dog. That's what I'm mad about. Sign it already. I feel like we're doing the wrong segment.
You know?